All right, welcome back to another edition of Live for Redhook here at the Function House. Tonight, we want to welcome our very special guest DJs, Moose and Bear. Welcome to the show.
Good to be here.
How you guys doing?
We're
Thanks for
doing
coming
well.
down.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
So you're here in New York City, played a couple of gigs while you guys were here. Why don't you tell us a little bit about the gigs that you were playing?
Yeah, well, we actually are here to play. We played Output at the Panther Room for Risky Business. These guys are throwing some crazy techno parties all over New York. We've had them in Mexico City once. We're going back this week, actually. So, it's been really fun. These parties, they fill up. They're a really crazy concept. We came to New York a few months ago. Also did another party at House of Yes. It was pantless. It's pretty crazy.
The Risky Business Pantless parties are a lot of fun.
So how did these Risky Business parties start, did you know?
I think some of their idea is that, techno is very serious. Techno is all about art, doing serious music. And their idea is, let's have techno be serious, techno be like good music, but also let's have fun with it, let's not take it too seriously. So then they're like, you know what, if you're pantless and dancing to good music, like everybody's going to have a good time and it's going to be different too.
So wait, nobody's wearing pants?
It's optional.
That's great.
Wow,
Yeah.
I got to go to this party. I can show off my hairy legs.
There's a pant check at the door, so you can take them off if you want to, leave them if you don't. So.
Make sure you don't wear white underwear.
Right.
So Moose and Bear, how did you come up with that name?
Well, for my whole life, my family's always called me Moose. Nobody really knows why or where it started, but since I was little, so I'm Moose. This is Bear. He has his story about why people call him Bear, but.
Yeah, so I actually went to school for engineering here in the States, and during finals I would just disappear for 1 week, 2 weeks. Nobody would know. Yeah, no, I was just like studying, and nobody would know about me. And then when they would see me 2 weeks later, I'd have like a beard, long hair, like I'd be like all disoriented after like 10 exams. So it'd be like, you're a bear, and people started calling me Lugo Bear, which was like my last name.
Yeah.
So then we've always been Moose and Bear, and we met. And when we were starting to come up with a project, she's like, people call me Moose and Bear. And actually, people usually relate those two animals all the time. So it's
People call me Bear because I'm really hairy.
Yeah, similar stories.
So how did you guys meet, and how did you get to start this Moose and Bear thing?
So I am originally from Detroit, and I moved to Mexico City 5 years ago. And it was kind of a crazy story how we met, but I met him my first week in Mexico City. We started talking about music and, just like our very similar interests, and we just decided to randomly start this project together. It started kind of more of as a passion project, and then just over time it just developed into a much more serious thing. And
Now, how did you guys actually get into the art of DJing?
Oh, for me it was, I've always loved music. I used to be like a heavy metal guitarist, and then I went to Europe and I got to know electronic music, and I started loving it a lot. I came back to the States, and in my college I just started like DJing these frat parties. They were really fun, completely different music from what we do now, but that's where I got comfortable with the decks, with playing in front of people. And once I graduated, I said, I actually kind of like music a lot more than engineering. So then, even though engineering gives you like a really cool skill set, mindset to do things, I've applied it so much, but then I started doing this, and then I met Marley. She has a great ear. She gets music so well. She's from Detroit, a great background, and then we started working together. Things started shooting off really well, and here we are now.
Wow. And how about you? How did you start DJing?
yeah, so born and raised in Detroit, and, the home of techno, so that was kind of easy for me to get really into the scene, going to DEMF, and now it's the Movement Festival. When I moved to Mexico City, I met him, and we just kind of talked about it, and it made a lot of sense to just start the project together. And he had more of a house background. I came from the techno world, and we just kind of made a fusion. And over the years, it's just developed into what our sound is now.
So how did you take it from starting that project to actually getting booked to play in New York? Who books you here?
Well, here we come with Risky Business, but before we actually played in a few bars when we were starting. Breaking into the New York scene is pretty hard. And actually, the way that we actually got to meet the Risky Business crew, we went to AD, which is the Amsterdam dance event. It's a great, it's this conference, 300,000 people go for it, apparently, throughout the whole week. everybody's in black in Amsterdam. It looks like a mass funeral. Like, it's really funny. And that's where you meet like all these agents, all these DJs, everybody's there just having fun, and also, you know, like, having all these meetings. So then,
Networking,
yeah,
right?
yeah, we met part of like their crew there, started talking. We actually got a production, we collaborated in a production, we signed it with their label, Risky Business, also a label. So then, you know, the production came out well, so then they were like, hey, like, why don't you come over to New York to one of our parties? We can do some promo for the production and see how it goes from there. So went well. We had him over to Mexico City as well, and it's just been taking off.
And they're actually coming back with us tomorrow to Mexico City. We're going to do a little mini tour there and just kind of bring the brand to Mexico and Latin America. So
That's great. What about the clubs in Mexico City? What's the spot?
Oh, wow. Well, Mexico City, you know, there's like 25 million people. There's so much going on all the time. There's so many foreigners. There's, you know, Mexicans, we love to party really hard. So, and there isn't really any, like, any limits on time. So sometimes we party till like
9
8 a.m., 9 a.m. We've
10 a.m.
DJ'd, we've gotten out of the club, then we can't get home because there's a marathon going on. And then you feel like that guy who like runs to the marathon and accidentally like trips someone, you know. I've been terrified running to those. But, you know, the clubs are great. There's this club, Deansmore, which is where we had a residency for a long time. I think that's where we shaped a lot of our sound. Mono is a great club. Actually, we were playing with Heather there. And also like clubs all over Mexico, really.
How is the techno scene in Mexico, and particularly Mexico City?
It's growing. We have like a lot of people, Climbers, Hector, who've come out of there, who've done great things. They're also touring. It's growing a lot. You know, until recently we had the BPM, which is, we were lucky to be exposed to like all this great music from all over the world. I think we got to learn a lot from them, and I think even though the BPM is no longer there, we still have great artists coming back. There's a great scene. Like, nobody wants Tulum to ever like lose that magic that it has. So it's really thriving.
It's great.
As far as production, you guys are putting music out?
Yeah, we've been working on music together for, you know, the past 4 years, and our sound has really seen a big progression. And right now we're just really focused in kind of our techno sound, and we're releasing some tracks on the Risky Business label as well as some other places. And so yeah, we're just trying to really focus to find our sound in the techno underground realm and get as much music out as possible.
So is there anything out now? Is there any music out right now?
Yeah, on our Spotify, you know, we signed some music with Sony right now. We made a remix that came out pretty well. Risky Business, that track we made is also over there. And like Marley said, right now we're kind of like just shifting our sound a little bit. We really want to hit our roots. We want to do techno, deep house, like.
It's kind of how our project started, and then it kind of progressed into many different things. We experimented with a lot of different sounds, and I think it's a really complex process to define your sound, and especially when you're two people, it gets, you know, even more complicated.
Sure.
So it's taken us, you know, a few years to really figure out exactly what it is that we want to do, and we've definitely done it.
So is one of you the technical guru in the studio, and one of you is like the sort of arrangement person? Like, how does that work in the studio?
Actually, exactly like that. So he's a lot more technically focused, and, you know, I grew up playing random instruments like the clarinet, the piano, the guitar, and so as far as like pulling out a melody, like that's kind of my thing, and just like that type of creative element. And then he's like the really technically focused person in the studio. So we're a good team.
Yeah.
So how long do you guys usually sit behind the console and bang out tracks? I mean, is it a long process? Do some things come quicker than others? Like, how much time are you guys spending in the studio?
Oh, well, this is like, I think production is just such a tricky thing, you know. Like, sometimes you can sit there for 2 days, just bang your head against it, and like nothing will come out. Then like the next day you'll sit down 15 minutes and like a melody will come out, just like that, you know.
That's pretty much the story of like everybody who comes on the show and how they talk about that, you know.
I think the thing is just to keep coming back until the muse speaks to you, you know.
So what do you guys think about like the whole techno scene these days? I mean, it's kind of pretty relevant, especially in the States. There's a big techno scene here in New York City, particularly Brooklyn. They've had some really big techno parties. We had Solomon down here not too long ago. He did a big techno party. So who are some of the big techno DJs that you guys follow? And what do you think about the techno scene right now in the States?
It's huge. Like this night that we played at Output, we were done with our set, and then we were at the Panther Room. We went to the main room, and we heard some of the best music we've ever heard. We hadn't ever heard of this guy. We were there for 10 minutes, and we were like, wow, this guy is killing it. The sound in there is the best that we've ever heard. Like, we've been all over the world, and like, I was just closing my eyes, listening to that beautiful music and that beautiful sound system, and it was packed, and people get the music. You know, like before, I think these clubs, it was hard for people, especially when everything was like exploding. You know, this whole techno scene, like, well, it was like coming just as hard as like the rest of like the EDM scene, and some people suddenly went to clubs and like didn't like the music because they just went because they thought it was, you know, electronic music. But I think right now, after all that noise has died down, techno is making like
not even a comeback. It's always been there,
Yeah.
but it's the roots of everything: house music and techno,
Yeah.
Detroit, Chicago. And I mean, it's always been there. It's always been prominent. But right now, I think people are kind of coming around, and like once they've dug through, you know, everything that's out there, they kind of figured that out and went to the roots. And I think that's why it's something that's so popular right
Sure,
now.
sure, sure.
Let's hope it doesn't come too mainstream, right?
That's the other thing. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's like we were in Berlin last year just visiting. We weren't playing, but we went to Berghain and we actually got in, and it was really crazy to see, like, you know, like how seriously they take it. And the door policy, a lot of people think that it's a little too much, but really I think what it is that they want to keep it out of the mainstream. They want to keep people from just being curious to go there, people who like don't really appreciate it, who are not there to just listen to music and party.
Well, Output, they don't allow any camera phones on the dance floor or anywhere in the club if they catch you with your phone up. I mean, people are sneaking it now and then, but they definitely are not for that. And they're constantly telling you to put it away, which I think is good, you know, because you should be at the club paying attention to the music and dancing as opposed to like videoing the DJ.
Yeah, it's about
Right.
the music, and that's what that venue is all about.
So you guys traveled like a fair amount of places. Where would you say made the biggest impact on you guys? Club or area?
I'd really say it's between. Ooh, that's
Possibly Detroit. I mean, I'm from there, and I mean, being able to go back to my city and play at a venue that I've always loved to go to was, I mean, it was a great experience. And
Yeah. Like I was thinking, like, you know, Tulum, New York, Berlin, but like I guess like Detroit was one of the first places that we actually like internationally played at, and it's just like so special because techno music was invented there. You know, like that's where they had the first like techno raves, and you see people who are just so into it, just love it, and it's been there for so long that it's just like, you know, you hear everything. Like on Sunday, there's just like parties everywhere downtown, so it's crazy. And I think that's where we started. And I said like, yeah, I love this kind of music. I want to really keep going this way.
Awesome.
So how do you guys search for new music?
we do a lot of it together and separately, and we just kind of like have like a sit down session, you know, every couple days, and just go over what we found. And
yeah, I feel like it's like listening to sets of people that you love. Like I think Eagles and Butterflies has been a really big influence on us. Maceo Plex, Enrico Sanguiliano. Like we listen to all kinds of music. And then, like sometimes I find music that she says like, no way are we ever playing
you've
that.
gone a little too far.
Yeah.
And vice versa. I mean, it's cool being a team and just, being able to bounce things off.
Do you find that when you're doing your sets, is every set different? Are there records that you like to always rotate into your sets? Are there like a couple of, floor killers that you just love to play all the time? Like, because there's so much music today. And like you could just play a different set every time that you play, or so you see less and less of people working in some of the steady records each set. So how do you guys do it?
It's like a combo of both. I mean, we have like our major ones that is always going to hit well, and after a while it's like, okay, we've been playing that for a little too long. Let's rotate. And I mean, it's just kind of feeling out the floor of the people and just going with it in the moment. And
But I feel like the beautiful thing about techno is that you can play a record that was released last month, and also you can play a record that was released like 7 years ago, and it'll still be underground to a lot of people. Like it's not like in the other commercial scenes where it's like, oh man, that song was 7 years old. Like why are you playing it? No, like people here are gonna discover it,
Right.
love
It's
it.
cool.
Yeah,
It's like, why are you playing Pitbull? I mean, you just played Pitbull.
exactly.
Well, he's like every commercial song,
right.
right?
Well, it's great to have you guys here, coming in, from Mexico City and coming here to the Function House. We really appreciate you guys coming down.
Well, no,
Thank
you
you guys for
inviting
having us. It's really cool.
So is there anything we should be looking forward to you guys in the future, say in the next coming months, that you want to announce, or anything that you guys are working on?
Yeah, like Marley said, like I think we've really found our sound. we're going to really be shaping up our music, our releases to reflect that we know where we're going, we know what sound we want, that underground techno with some, you know, melodic elements from my like house background. So we're gonna be releasing a few tracks there. Like we said, we're gonna have tours right now through Mexico with Risky Business. I think we're gonna be playing here some and starting to break out a little bit more. And yeah, please keep look. We're releasing on Spotify, SoundCloud. We have some things. So
Great.
Awesome. Well, we're going to take a 2-minute break, and we're going to get Moose and Bear up on the CDJs. Peace.
Peace.